Fun fact, if you type anime coming out into the YouTube search bar, all you get are results of videos talking about upcoming anime that will be released in the future. Good luck to this video finding any kind of success in the algorithm. Coming out is one of the most important and defining milestones for queer people. It's the moment in a young queer person's life when they have the courage to tell the ones that are closest to them, whether they are a close friend or a relative they trust, who they really are. However, not every coming out story is the same. Some are more positive than others, which is why we see so many different experiences depicted across a variety of LGBTQ+ media. But those scenes don't often get shown in anime. When it comes to portraying queer identity in anime, we tend to find most of these characters at a time where they have either accepted who they are, or they are questioning and coming to terms with who they are before we see them get to that next stage. Some queer folks don't feel the need to come out, and that is absolutely valid, but when it comes to baby gays looking to anime for guidance on the matter, then it can be difficult to see themselves reflected in the medium they love. That being said, I did happen to find a couple anime which had a character confiding in another and feeling comfortable enough to express who they truly are. Good everyone, I'm IrishAnimeFan, and these are some coming out scenes in anime. Also, spoilers for all the anime discussed in this video. Cute girls doing cute things anime, or CGDCT anime, tend to have a lot of GL undertones to them. Think about it, a group of anime girls spending a lot of time together, playfully interacting with each other, admiring how cute they are, and deepening their close friendship over the course of multiple seasons? Sounds pretty fruity to me. Hell, one of the most popular and longest running CGDCT anime and manga is literally called Yuru Yuri. But despite these strong implications, none of the characters in these shows are explicitly stated to be gay, leading to a lot of them being labeled as quote-unquote Yuri bait by fans of girls' love. So when one of these series actually does feature a female character who is actually a lesbian, then that's a pretty big deal. This is the case with Anima Yell, which aired in 2018. One day, as middle schooler Kohane Hatoya was walking home from school, she came across a group of cheerleaders performing by a lake. Now in high school, and inspired by what she had seen that day, she decided to start up her own cheerleading club, because that joke won't get old really quickly, combining her love of helping people in need and her enthusiastic interest for the art form. The only problem is that she doesn't know what she's doing, so she recruits her childhood friend Uki Sawatari and former cheerleader Hisume Arima to help spread her love of cheer throughout the school. Anima Yell follows a pretty conventional formula found in other CGDCT series, namely the ones that emerge from the Manga Time Kirara magazine. It's largely a lighthearted comedy that focuses on a group of girls partaking in an activity together. In this instance, it's cheerleading. My main issue with it is that it doesn't really do anything interesting with its formula, and on top of that the comedy gets repetitive after a while, the characters are all one note, and it doesn't really give me much of a reason to care about cheerleading all that much, other than it being cool, which is true, but that appreciation doesn't go any deeper than that. However, one standout moment in the series for me was that it had a surprisingly well done coming out scene in the third episode. At this point, the cheerleading club has enough members to be considered an association, which means they have a dedicated room in the school to practice in. Kohane had also put up flyers across the school to advertise their service of helping students with their problems, through the power of cheer, of course. This catches the attention of classmate Kon Akitsune, looking to the club for advice on how to confess her feelings to her private tutor. Despite the fact that tutor is a college student who is 4 years older than Kon, but let's not think about that right now. Not being well versed in the world of love and relationships, the club gives her suggestions that are questionable, as to be expected. But all the while they're doing that, they assume Kon has feelings for a boy. But she reveals the person she's in love with is actually a girl. What makes this scene work so well is that while everyone is stunned by this revelation at first, making Kon a bit tense after opening up like that, they don't dwell on that feeling for too long. They don't joke about it or make advances towards her that make her feel uncomfortable. They play this scene pretty straight, ironically enough. I also really liked what this scene conveyed visually, with the use of heavy shading to convey the seriousness of this situation, like it's a weight that Kon has been carrying for quite some time now. But in the end, it doesn't matter whether Kon is into girls or not, because what's important to the club is ensuring their clients' happiness through the power of cheer. Kohane even says to her that the fact that she's able to fall in love with anyone at all, regardless of gender, is great and should be cherished. We find out later in that episode that Kon, taking the club's advice on board, managed to pluck up the courage to confess her love for this girl, and they're now dating. But if you ignore all the weird age gap stuff in there, the scene is actually a really nice and wholesome moment in the series that treats the topic with the respect and the dignity that it deserves. While I was researching for this video, I actually found out that this show had an Indonesian dub, but they had to censor this moment because, well, homosexuality isn't something that's viewed very fondly over there. But instead of making the most logical change, swapping the gender from a girl to a boy as you would expect, they instead changed it to make it seem like the only reason that Kon was attracted to this person was because they were smart.
Maaf, kalian salah paham. Guruku itu sangat pintar.
Fellas, is it gay to be into intelligence? Sasaki and Miyano, the boys' love anime about a shy fudanshi and his playful upperclassmen getting to know and subsequently falling for each other. Now, I've talked about this series a couple times on this channel before, so some of you all know how much I love this anime, but I'll admit that on both occasions my thoughts on it were rather brief. So allow me to rectify that by going more in depth into an aspect of the series that makes it one of my favorite BL anime of all time. One reason why I speak so highly about it is because it does things that you don't typically see in other BL anime. Case in point, the graduation film, which follows on from the events of season 1 and deals with how our main pairing takes their relationship to the next stage. I bring this up because it has not one, but two very different scenes showing how both of its titular characters came out to their respective households. The first scene revolves around Miyano. In the lead up to Valentine's Day, Miyano invites Sasaki to bake chocolate treats together at his place, but that means he has to tell his mum about Sasaki coming over. He's nervous at first, worried about what his mother might say about him making chocolates for a boy. Understandably so, because it's not as common for boys to give Valentine's chocolates to each other. But once he tells her, she has no issue with it. Miyano then elaborates by saying that he really likes this boy, referring to Sasaki, and wants to spend a long time with him. His mum instantly catches on to the fact that the boy he's bringing over is the same one that he also really likes, and she thinks it's wonderful, likening it to when she and Miyano's dad fell for each other when they were his age. The scene ends with Miyano stating how he is so glad to have a mother like her.
I'm so glad I have a mom like you.
I absolutely adore this scene for many reasons. The first is how lovely Miyano's mum is. I didn't know what to expect from her, considering this is the first time she properly shows up in the series, but I'm happy Sho Harasono, the series creator, wrote her to be such a loving and supportive parent, which to any queer kid is so invaluable. I also really liked the message behind it because by comparing Miyano's feelings for Sasaki to that of his own mum and dad, it normalizes same-sex relationships to the characters and by proxy the viewers who are also closeted, and it makes them feel less insecure about their sexuality. In that sense, it reminded me of the scene where Nick came out to his mum at the end of the first season of Heartstopper, because both those scenes melt my heart every time I watch them. The heartwarming nature of this scene is even greater when contrasted with Sasaki's scene later on. It's Miyano's birthday, and this time, Sasaki is the one to invite him over to his place to study, and also just be cute together. Sasaki's older sister, Satoko, then walks into the room and greets Miyano, who earlier in the film had met when Sasaki was sick. She thanks him for being there for her brother as a friend, but Sasaki quickly corrects her by stating that he's not just a friend, but they are in fact dating. Satoko doesn't take the news very well and storms out of the room as a result of it. Sasaki doesn't immediately go after her because they both haven't always seen eye to eye with each other, but Miyano, not satisfied with letting this issue go unresolved, convinces him to look for her, and once they do, begin to reconcile with her. The differences between this scene and the previous one we discussed earlier couldn't be more stark. Compared to the warmth coming from Miyano's mum, Satoko's reaction was colder and showed very little compassion towards Sasaki and by extension Miyano for not accepting their relationship. We later learned that her opinion of same-sex couples was shaped by the casual homophobia propagated by her social circle, as well as the aforementioned strange dynamic between her and Sasaki, causing her to act the way she did. For as uncomfortable and painful as this side of the coming out story is to a lot of us, I still think it's important to highlight scenes like this in our media because unfortunately, it is a reality for a lot of queer people out there. Sometimes the people you come out to cannot look past the fact that you don't conform to heteronormativity, and they refuse to change their views at the expense of your happiness and your ability to live your true, authentic self. However, Satoko does express regret over how she acted, and upon talking to Miyano, is willing to do whatever she can to ensure Sasaki's happiness. A bittersweet yet hopeful resolution to this sequence of events. The last anime we'll talk about is what inspired me to make this video in the first place. Hoshiai no Sora, or Stars Align, is about a middle school boys' soft tennis club that is at risk of disbanding due to their overall poor performance. Not wanting to see the club fall apart, Captain Toma Shinjo is desperate to find new players to help reinvigorate the team. This is when he notices Maki Katsuragi, a recent transfer student with impressive reflexes, and upon witnessing his skills in action, persuades him to join the team, with the incentive of paying him for his participation. Maki ends up joining the club, and he picks up the sport in no time, quickly outshining the rest of his teammates. This spurs them to challenge themselves and to improve their abilities in the sport as they make their way to the nationals to prove themselves to the rest of their school. Stars Align initially stood out in the full 2019 season because it was an original sports anime that also addressed hard-hitting issues such as bullying, identity, and parents just being shitty to their own kids, all of which really hit a nerve. However, the anime got a bit of a raw deal. According to creator Kazuki Akane, the series was supposed to have 24 episodes, but at the last minute, the production committee cut the episode count in half. The reason for this decision was never disclosed. Maybe they lacked faith in the original project, or they just didn't know how to market a sports anime that tackled serious and difficult subject matter. Either way, the anime unfortunately suffered because of this, leading to structural changes and unresolved plot threads, resulting in a cliffhanger ending. But despite hopes of wrapping up the story through a sequel, unfortunately, a continuation never materialized. It's a shame because this series had so much potential. The drama, while not subtle, was really compelling. It had decently animated tennis matches, and hell, they even threw in some TikTok dances in there as well, although those were apparently plagiarized. If we lived in a perfect world where the production committee had put more faith into the series and the staff stayed true to their original vision, then I'm confident Stars Align would have been seen as one of the best sports anime of all time. However, we don't live in that world, so now I'm in a perpetual and existential state of wondering what could have been. But still, I'm thankful for what Akane and Co were able to do in those 12 episodes, even if it is in an unfinished state. Especially since it contains probably the best coming out scene that anime has to offer. Stars Align's coming out scene is different from the previous two because instead of being about a character's sexual orientation, this time it is about their gender identity. More specifically as it pertains to Yu Asuka, the club's manager. For context, Yu is someone who is kind and caring, but throughout the series, they are constantly made fun of and bullied for the way they act. However, Yu has a really amazing support unit in the Soft Tennis Club because they consider Yu a valuable member of the team. They treat them like one of their own and stand up for them whenever they get picked on. Anyway, back to the coming out scene, which occurs in episode 8. The club are trying to get a read up on their opponent's playstyle. However, knowing that they are from rival schools, they would immediately be told to leave. So Yu comes up with the idea of them and Maki cross-dressing as adoring fangirls, filming their competitors in action. While Yu and Maki both get ready for this plan, they strike up a meaningful conversation about gender identity, with Yu opening up to Maki about how they are unsure with who they currently are. Yu then reveals that after researching the topic, that they're probably non-binary, but doesn't like being labeled as such. Yu feels as if society is pressuring them to decide on what gender they should be, but Maki reassures them by talking about his family friend Sho, who is a trans man. He talks about how Sho struggled living as a girl for most of his life, but once he was able to live independently and express who he truly was, he became much happier as a result. And that trusted family friend who raised Maki while his mother was out working is the Sho that he knows and loves. Despite being a middle schooler, Maki is wise beyond his years. He's already shown to have an incredible read on people, catching on to how Yu has a crush on Toma, but instead of ridiculing them for it, like every other boy at their school, Maki accepts them for who they are. This makes Maki the perfect character for Yu to confide in, and it lays the groundwork for Yu's coming out story to flourish. In the follow-up to this scene too, despite living a day dressed as a girl, Yu is still unsure about whether they should transition or not. But Maki once again reassures Yu to not rush into a decision they're not sure of, despite societal pressure to conform to one or the other. To put Maki's affirmations into his own words,
If we live life at our own pace, there's always time.
as I stated earlier, I consider Stars Align to have anime's best coming out scene, and I think that way for a few reasons. The first reason is the anime's recognition and explicit representation of non-binary identities. There are many characters in anime who don't outright label themselves as such, and that is completely valid, don't get me wrong. But to see a character who refers to themselves as non-binary in the text is really refreshing to see. The second reason is how this scene delicately handles this sensitive subject. To some, a non-binary person could be an alien concept to them. But Maki relating his own questioning about his own purpose in the world to Yu questioning their own gender identity goes a long way in humanizing the struggles people like Yu go through on a daily basis. Finally, the scene ends on a wonderful note, with Yu telling Maki about how their sisters shortened their name from Yuta to Yu, and how happy it makes them feel. So Maki decides to call them Yu from now on. Damn, I wish I had a friend like Maki. But this is only my take on this scene as a cis man. Cis man with a question mark or an asterisk beside it. I'm still trying to figure that one out for myself. However, I recommend you check out this video by Shabby Jeebus if you want a more informed perspective on this anime from someone who is actually non-binary. I'll provide a link to that video in the description below. So these are all the anime coming out scenes that I'm aware of, at least. If there's anything that I had missed, then please let me know in the comments section below. Anyway, that does it for me. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to like the video, share it around because that really helps me out, and make sure you subscribe to be notified of whenever I upload a new video. I've been IrishAnimeFan, and until next time, Slán.